this edition of Meet the Candidates. Today we have with us a candidate for County Commissioner. We have Scott Vecchi from Plymouth. Scott, welcome to Brockton Community Access.
Thank you for having me.
Nice to meet you. Nice to not meet you, but have you here. I shouldn't say meet you. I met you a couple of years ago, the first time you ran, and you're running for County Commissioner. You've been at it since the election season kicked off. I would say with one of the PCDL events when
Since January.
Since January, so now we're in October. We're almost in the final stretches of the campaign. Let's talk about yourself and just how you found the campaign trail going so far.
To be honest with you, Mark, I love the campaign trail. I've got to meet a lot of really nice people. I've got to talk with a lot of people that otherwise, if I hadn't gotten involved in politics, that I normally wouldn't have encountered or been able to, share their experiences and their life stories with me. It's going excellent. About me, I'm a retired gunnery sergeant of Marines. Mm-hmm. I was retired after I returned from Iraq in 2006. Iraq veteran. I served in Fallujah 2006. I've been a police officer for 20 years. Currently a sergeant for the Plymouth Police Department. I'm the day shift sergeant. I started off in the transit police, transferred down to the Plymouth Police, but if you put it all together, it's 20 years. Plus before that, I was a part-timer and had worked in the jail for a while. Mm-hmm. But in addition to that, I'm also an attorney. After I was retired from the Marine Corps, the VA sent me to law school. I graduated from UMass Dartmouth Law, the first public law school in the state. It actually used to be Southern New England School of Law, right. And it was taken over by the UMass system because Massachusetts was one of the few states without a public law school. So I was proud to graduate from the first public law school in Massachusetts. And I graduated in 12. I took the bar in February of 13, passed on the first try, very proud of that. And it's a combination of things that I'm going to bring to the table as a county commissioner: leadership, crisis management, and a legal background. You don't find much more leadership than a gunnery sergeant of Marines, and like they say, you're a Marine till they close the box. Mm-hmm. Like I said, my police experience, I deal with a lot of really intense situations. Situations where you only have 20 or 30 seconds to react and make a decision that could change somebody's life. So crisis management is something that I'm well versed in, and the law degree brings me a legal background that I think is important. In law school, they spend a lot of time on how laws are made, why the laws are certain ways, where the government draws its powers from. So I think that'll help me very much as a county commissioner.
Well, all three things, I know your background because I'm pretty familiar, having been on the campaign trail myself, but, when you're a Marine, you're proud of being a Marine. I see your tie tack on right there, okay, and you usually have either a Marine tie or a Masonic tie, okay, and right now you have just a regular tie, but first try for the bar exam, I got to give you credit for that because there are a lot of lawyers that are out there that don't have that.
I locked myself in the house for the better part of 2 months. So.
There you go. So now you're also a business owner too, from what I understand. You're, right now the business, you're not running it day to day, but you're a business owner too.
Yeah, I'm still helping. In 2009, we reopened a defunct business. Mayflower Taxi had been a business in the town of Plymouth for about 20 years. My friend Dan used to own it. Mm-hmm. He got another job and sold off the business, and when he sold it, the people that he sold it to didn't do a good job of it, and they kind of drove it into the ground. So we used to joke around a lot, and finally I got tired of it, and I said, Dan, look, I said, either start the business again or I'm going to start it. And he said, go ahead. So I gave him $1, and I bought the name Mayflower Taxi from him, and I went out and got 2 old auction police cars, painted them like the old Mayflower Taxis, and started Mayflower Taxi again. Okay. And right now it's a thriving business. My wife, she's taken over the business while I campaign. There's only so many things you can do at once, so I still keep my hand in it and give advice. But my wife's in charge of it, and we have a manager and an assistant manager that take care of the day-to-day running of it. But I think we have about I lose track of the vehicles because sometimes we have a couple that we take off the road, but they're still at the shop. We're right around 18 vehicles, 9 full-time employees, 9 or 10 part-time employees. Mm-hmm. And it's doing very well. And that's another thing. I didn't have a business plan. I just kind of went off the advice of my friend, started it up again, and kind of felt my way through it. And it gave me a lot of really important knowledge about the business community, how a business runs, different things that are very important. And bringing that knowledge with me to the county will be important as well, because a combination of private business and being a public employee and having experience with negotiating contracts, different disciplinary issues and all that other stuff that I have in my job as the police sergeant, where I serve as the vice president of our union. And when you combine that with the private business experience, I think that's going to work really well as a commissioner.
Okay, so the next question, the logical question is why county government, why county commissioner? Obviously you believe in county government if you're running for a county position.
I strongly believe in
tell us
county
why
government.
you picked that office.
I think that the county is an intriguing level of government. It's an underutilized, often misunderstood form of government, but a very important level of government, in my opinion. But the county is only as relevant as it makes itself. Because, having been down south and out west, when you travel from one community, say we left the city of Brockton and went to drive to Whitman, you drive through 10 or 15 miles of nothing. Land that didn't belong to a community, and that would belong to the county. It's called unincorporated territory. I know you know this, but
Sure.
Just so the viewers can understand it. So when those communities don't touch, the land in between belongs to the county. And that's why down south and out west, the county is a bigger form of government. The county runs schools, it fixes roads, it does all the things that a municipality up here does. But because we're the oldest part of the country, all of our municipalities abut. Like Brockton touches Whitman, Whitman touches Hanson, all that other stuff. So the county becomes invisible. It becomes that sandwiched layer, invisible between the local municipality and the state. But it provides some important services. They own 3 courthouses. They own the old Brockton courthouse up here, in addition to the Hingham courthouse and the Wareham courthouse. The county runs the Registry of Deeds. Mr. Buckley, who we just saw a few minutes ago, does a great job as the Register of Deeds. I say that all the time. I can't speak highly enough about Mr. Buckley. He's got important projects going, trying to preserve the colonial documents so that they're there for future generations. The Treasurer's Office reports to the commissioners. The Treasurer's Office runs the county retirement system, which has outperformed the state 6 of the last 7 years, the last time I checked. The Mayflower Municipal Health Care is run by the Treasurer's Office. Treasurer Tom O'Brien does a great job managing both of those things. I believe they haven't had a premium increase in quite some time. The last time I checked, I haven't talked to them specifically about that issue recently, but the last I checked, they've been doing pretty good with keeping their premiums and keeping all the rates very, very steady. In addition to that, they run the 4-H program. Molly, who's the director of the 4-H, she does a great job. 4-H is very important. It's a very productive program for kids, keeps kids out of trouble, gives them something to do, introduces them to animals and all that other stuff. The Marshfield Fairs, and they have it up here at the Brockton Fair, I believe, too. Like I said, when they're at the fairs and they're introducing those programs to the community, it draws more kids in, gives kids something productive to do. And did I say the mosquito sprayer and the fire plane, and there's a couple other things that they do that are pretty important that most people don't realize. And most people don't realize there are 3 commissioners.
Right.
And they don't really understand how they function. And I always analogize them to a selectman. A selectman in one of the towns or a city councilor up here in Brockton. It's a part-time job. They meet, the commissioners meet every other Thursday at the county administration building in Plymouth. That's on Obery Street. And they conduct the business. There's a full-time county administrator, much like the towns have town administrators, who keeps track of everything, sets the agenda, does all the paperwork and that stuff. And then when they have their meetings, obviously the Register of Deeds, Mr. Buckley's there, as well as the Treasurer, Tom O'Brien, and they conduct the business of the county at those meetings.
So, okay, what kind of issues are out there in the race that you've been talking about, the issues that you want to bring to the table for county government? Because you're right, it is invisible, and a lot of people out there, when I was running for a different office, Register of Probate, what's that? What does the county do? It almost seems like people, when they're looking at the ballot, they're cognizant of who the U.S. Senator is. They're cognizant of who the governor is, who the state rep, who the senator is. You get down to the bottom of the ballot, and we were all used to talking last at every single candidate's event. What have people been talking to you about in the issues you want to bring to bear? The joke I use all the time is I'm so low on the ballot, I'm about to fall off. I am actually the bottom right-hand corner of the ballot, and that's why I tell people, I'm like, once you know who I am, go to the bottom right corner and start there, because you know who everybody else is on the ballot.
issues that I bring to the table are pretty simple issues. There's three things that I'd like to see accomplished. Again, it's going to take a lot of working with the other commissioners, but I see them as fairly important options. So one is solar. The county's already working on a solar array. They already have, I believe, an RFP out there to do a 5-acre solar farm that they're trying to situate and kind of line that up. But one of the things I've always felt that as a leader, you have to set the example. But not only do you have to set the example, you have to let people see you setting the example so they know what you're doing. And sometimes our government doesn't do a good of a job of letting the people know what we're doing for them. And that's why one of the things that I'd like to do, and it's going to take some working with the other commissioners and obviously, figuring out some variables in it, but I'd like to see a small solar array out behind the commissioner's building, out behind the county administration building on Obery Street. It abuts the hospital, and it faces due south. There's no old growth trees that need to be cut down, because it doesn't make any sense to cut down trees to save the environment with solar, does it? No. So, I mean, if we get a small solar array, I believe in solar so much, I actually just put 23 panels on my house. That's how much I believe in solar. They're coming tomorrow to set up that meter that shows how much you're feeding back into the grid so that you can go down and look at it and see how it's working. The only other thing I need for my panels to go live is for NSTAR to change out my meter. Because you need to have a net meter that shows how much is feeding back into the grid. So I don't just talk about solar. I'm doing it on my own in my house, and I think that's important for me as a candidate to set the example, and something that I espouse and I believe strongly in. But also, if the county sets up a small array, and I'm not talking a big array, I'm talking about the size that I have on my house. I have 23 panels. It's a 7.5 kilowatt photovoltaic array, ground mounted. So we don't want to. I listened when the chairman the other day said we just put a new roof on. He doesn't want holes in it. I understand that. You can ground mount them. And they go to somewhere, I believe it's a 45 or a 30 degree angle, ground mounted. They'll catch all the sunlight and feed that right back into the county administration building. Save the county money. And that way, when they operate the building, when nobody's in the office at 5:30 in the morning when the sun comes up, so that'll be making electricity that'll flow back into the grid. And if it's, obviously it gets darker earlier in the wintertime, but in the summertime it stays light until 9 o'clock. So when everybody leaves the office at the end of the day and they shut all the lights off, that would continue to make electricity feeding back into the grid. So not only would it help the county save money by reducing the amount of the check they have to write to NSTAR, but it also set the example and show people what the county's doing. So that's one of the, and it's not that big of a project. It's probably, I think my house putting it on there was all told about $46,000. There's grants out there. The county has a part-time grant writer. You could get most of that money probably from the state in the form of a grant. So it wouldn't really cost the county much, if at all. So that's number one.
That's number one. And number two, when we were talking before we did the show, in Massachusetts, as you said, since we've been around a long time, it's kind of every city and town for themselves. Now, if you think of the concept of mutual aid in the fire departments, where fire departments help each other out, law enforcement especially works together. Yeah. They all need to be trained. We have a wonderful training facility here in the city of Brockton. Brockton Fire does it, and I think there's something in Western Mass, but you have your own idea.
And Carver does some technical rescue stuff too. There's actually, when it comes to what I talk about, and it really isn't my project, it's been on the table for a long time. It's been floating around for 15, closing on 20 years. And it was the county fire training facility. And I think it's a great idea for a couple of reasons. Because right now, if the local fire departments who don't have their own training facilities want to train, and they want to train in a burn environment, which is when they put on their Scott packs and they crawl around in the smoke, and that's very important. They need to find people, if they're clearing a house to make sure it's unoccupied, they need to train for that fairly frequently. The project has been situated on the county woodlot. The county fire chiefs have a license to use that part of the land already. And what they do is they do technical rescue stuff, like if a bridge collapsed or you were stuck under stone or something like that, and they had to winch you out of it or lift all this, cut through it. They already do that there. So the proposal would only cost the county the piece of land that they already use. And the proposal is the Chief Nord from Duxbury explained it to me, and he explained it fairly well, that in order to build this structure and to build this fire training facility, they need the land, and they need to not just have a license that could be taken away, but to have possession of the land. As an attorney, I say, well, we don't want to just give away county land. You don't want to do that. So what you do is you write a reversion. So if it ever ceased to be used for fire training purposes, it would come back to the county. That would protect the county, and that's where my legal knowledge comes into play. But if we gifted it to them or sold it to them for $1 with that reversion, they would build a structure that they could do fire training and even train recruit classes there. And you charge a reduced rate for the in-county fire departments. That saves all the local fire departments money for paying to use the structure. But it would also save them gas for driving the big red truck. It gets about 8 miles to the gallon or something like that. Plus maintenance, if you drive the big red truck all the way to Stowe and back, you have to do maintenance on it. So you'd save the communities within the county a lot of money. And you train their firefighters better and you train them locally. And it's at almost no cost to the county. It basically, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to around, give or take, 10 or so acres of a 106-acre woodlot that's right near my house that I'm very familiar with that they already use. Okay. And I think and the other thing that people don't realize is if you have one of these facilities, and I didn't know this either until I started talking to all the firefighters. Firefighters are a wealth of knowledge. They just keep it, you don't get a chance to talk to them all the time. There's an ISO rating. And if you live within a certain distance of one of these burn buildings, your insurance rates go down. I didn't know that until they told me.
Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. And then on the law enforcement side, you're a police officer for 20 years, and you have an idea dealing with firing ranges and things like that as well?
In 2009, the Sheriff's Department was removed from the county. And right, wrong, or indifferent, personally, I didn't agree with it. I think it was bad for the county. But now they're under the control of the Department of Correction. There was a building that was being built at that time. It was the county firearms range. It was an indoor facility where they fire into a snail trap and all the lead's reclaimed and they clean it so often so you don't have to worry about the lead mitigation or all that other stuff. But the purpose behind it was that the police officers go to Plymouth at the Plymouth Police Academy to get their annual training. So on Fridays was always range day, you were just going to walk across the parking lot, qualify with your pistol, and go back to your department fully trained for the year. Because when they were in the process of building this building, when the switch happened, the property line wound up on the wrong side of the building, and the county retained the shell of a building that sat an empty shell for the last 4 years while the sheriffs weren't able to use it. So what I'd like to do is work with DCAM. The commissioners were working with DCAM. There was some type of an issue where the deal they had kind of fell apart. But I'd like to take it upon myself to revisit that deal, to go back and work with DCAM and do what we can to get that back to where it belongs, to where all the police departments and especially the smaller police departments who don't have a lot of guys. They've already rescheduled for the week to send these people to training. When they come back and they're not fully trained and then they need to schedule it again, it costs them money and time. So if we could get this back where it needs to be, up and running, under the control of the sheriff, all the police departments would benefit. And I've even had police chiefs walk up to me and say, would you just give us our range back? And I said, I'll do my best. That's all I can promise. I'll do my best. I'll work with DCAM. I'll try and bring some money into the county. That was what it was before. I think there was an offer of somewhere around $400,000 that got reduced to $250,000, and that's where it kind of fell apart. But I'll do my best to fix that.
And what you're talking about, Scott, is all stuff that can be done like regionally on a countywide basis that don't seem to threaten anything that the city or towns do. I think in some places, like I went to school, I graduated undergraduate from University of Miami, so I'm pretty familiar with Dade County and Broward County, and libraries were run by county. I mean, here you're not talking about, okay, let's see, we're going to consolidate all the libraries, we're going to consolidate the senior centers. You're talking about stuff that would be an asset to each one of these communities to have. Now, bringing into my next question, 3 county commissioners, okay? You're a Democrat, okay?
am.
Right now on the county commission, there are 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. It's Greg Hanley, who's a Democrat. That's Dan Pilato, who's a Republican, and your opponent.
Yes.
Okay. I've seen the 3-member Board of Selectmen and the 5-member Board of Selectmen. I mean, if they ever get the county charter study thing off the table and recognize county government and everything,
well, the charter's
officially.
still at the State House. They just haven't taken any action on it, and hopefully it won't die at the State House. But it looks like we're getting at the end of the legislative session. I don't think anything's really going to happen with it, and unfortunately, it'll have to get filed again. I'd like to see it pass. I'd like there's some good provisions that would protect the county and benefit the county, but I don't really see a lot of hope for that charter right now.
My question is, how important is it for the commissioners to be on the same page? I'm in the city, so we have a city council, a mayor, and a school committee, and we see the pluses and minuses when people don't get along and don't do things together.
I think it's hugely important for them to all get along, and that was one of the problems that the commissioners had years back, is that they were not getting along with each other and they were having public arguments that benefited no one. There was a point where people were giving press conferences out in the parking lot after the meetings. I believe that all dirty laundry should be kept in-house. If you have disagreements, save them when it's just you guys to settle the differences or whatever you need to do. But the public shouldn't see that. The commissioners should have a united front. They should work together for the betterment of the county, and that's the most important part. Is they all have to get along. They might have philosophical differences, but at the end of the day, it's business. You know what I mean? It's not personal. It's just business, and you need to do the business, and you need to represent the people of the county the best you can.
Now, to educate the public from your point of view, you're a believer in county government because you're running for a county office,
I am.
not just because you're getting paid for it, okay?
No.
What would you tell people out there that would say, gee, why do we need to bother with this? Why do we even need a county layer?
To be honest with you, at times they have a valid argument. And the argument is what does county government do? And the problem is we need to show people. And that's why I say that small solar array out by the commissioner's building may not seem like a big deal, it might not seem important, but those people that say, what does county government do? When you do a project like that, or the burn building, now you could say, what does county government do? And you point to this big facility that benefits all the towns, or something similar of that nature. And if you can show the people what county government does and that it's working effectively and productively, then you won't have that argument for disbanding it. And I believe that it's very functional. And to the people there's people that just want to see it disbanded. And I said, well, while we have it, it needs to be responsibly stewarded. And I believe I'm that person to responsibly steward it. I'm going to do my best. We're going to keep it relevant. We're going to keep it productive. And that's kind of what I say for that. I believe in it. I don't think it should be disbanded, but it needs to be responsibly stewarded.
Now, I'm going to give you an opportunity at the end to do a closing statement. But before that, you have an opponent. You have a contested race. There's a Democrat and a Republican. Tell the viewers, the public, why you're a better candidate than the person that actually has the office. You've been very positive in your campaign. There hasn't been a lot of spotlight on it because, again, it's the bottom of the right side of the ballot, kind of like probate, and some of the other county offices aren't even contested. The DA's office isn't contested, and the Treasurer's office isn't contested. So tell us why Scott Vecchi is better than your opponent.
I say to everybody, take a look at my website. Take a look at my qualifications. Look me up on LinkedIn, Google me. Look at us side by side, and you'll see that my qualifications, my experiences, like I said, not just being an attorney. Being an attorney is a plus, but look at my other qualifications, the public employee negotiating skills. I've negotiated on our last 3 contracts. I've been on the Union E board for 10 years. Before that, I served on all the committees. I have experience in public employment and public negotiation and all that stuff. I'm a little tongue-tied, unfortunately. But the quasi-public-private, where you bring in private business skills, along with those public employee skills, and you combine that with the law degree and the crisis management, like I said, I say Google me, look at my website, look me up on LinkedIn, look at us side by side. And I believe that the viewers will see that I am the best candidate. And if I didn't believe I was the best candidate, I wouldn't be doing this.
Now, tell us what kind of response you've got. You've been every place. I mean, you don't have a free night or a free weekend. You're holding down a day job.
My wife's tired of it. She wants the next 18 days to go by.
Well, it's pretty quick. So what have you heard when you've been out there, when you've been talking to people, when you've been at the Old Home Days down in Carver or the Wareham picnic during the summer? What have you heard from the people that, not just the activists, but the people, the regular people?
Nothing but positive. And when I talk to people, and even, like sometimes, they'll just shrug it off and say, I'm a Republican. And I say, whoa, that doesn't mean, that we can't talk. And I say, give me 2 minutes of your life, and I bet you're going to vote for me when I'm done. And by the time I'm done talking, even the ardent Republicans who say they will never vote for a Democrat, you know how many people have told me, you're going to be the first Democrat I've ever voted for? Because I bring a positive message. I'm very upbeat. Like I said, I talk about myself. I talk about my campaign. I don't believe in negative campaigning. I believe in bringing a positive message, talking to people, seeing what their needs are, what the issues are, and that's what I've done so far. And I've had such a tremendous positive response. Now,
we're winding down the campaign. Pretty soon, it's going to be 2 weeks away. We'll be running this a few times, so we won't date it too much, but it's November 4th. The deadline for registering has passed. People can still get absentee votes, okay? Any big events or anything planned for the next couple of weeks, or are you just like pounding the pavement every day?
Go. Last night I had 4 different events. Unfortunately, I told Mr. Buckley, I missed at the end. Almost everybody had left. It was me and Mike Brady at the end. But I'm go, talk to the people, spread my message, get out there, get visibility, listen to the voters, and that's my goal is I'm sprinting for the next 18 days.
Now, it's a massive county. I learned that. I finally went to Plimpton for the first time in my life during the primary. Nice folks. Smallest town. Sure you depend on volunteers, and how would people get in touch with you to volunteer or help you? I know you're going to be looking for sign holders on election day.
Oh, definitely.
How would they get in touch?
If you want to get in touch with me, they can go to my website, www.voteforvecchi.org, VOTE, the number 4, VECCHI. They can email at scott.vecchi@gmail.com, or they can go on Facebook. We're on Facebook. You can send me a Facebook message. We're pretty easy to get a hold of.
Okay.
And we need all the help we can get.
There you go. Now, I think we have about maybe 3 or 4 minutes left, okay? Take whatever time you want. You be the salesman for yourself. Tell the voters, give a closing statement, but not a closing statement under pressure, a closing statement to tell people why they should vote for you. We've done a good job of outlining your positions and issues and background, but do the sales pitch.
The elevator speech, so to speak. My name is Scott Vecchi, and I ask for your vote on November 4th. I'm a retired gunnery sergeant of Marines. I've been a police officer for over 20 years, and I'm an attorney. I bring leadership, crisis management, and a legal background that's very important in any elected official. But in addition to that, I've provided much-needed jobs in a difficult economy. I started a business. I have a lot of business acumen that I bring along with it, with a unique public-private combination of skills. And I ask you, just go to my website, voteforvecchi.org. Look me up on LinkedIn. Just Google Scott Vecchi, and I'll pop up. I think there's 4 or 5 pages worth of stuff there. Go to the Facebook page. Make your own informed decision. And I think that, again, if you look at us side by side, me and my opponent, you'll see that I am the better candidate. I ask for your vote on November 4th. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is get out and vote. It's one of our most important rights that we possess as citizens. And get out, exercise that right, participate in democracy at its truest form at the polling place. And that's what our forefathers set up for us to enjoy all these rights and privileges. Please go out and vote.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate you coming on, taking the time. It's good to get the exposure out, and I like your theory about going to the bottom of the ballot and voting all the way up the other end, because you're
Bottom
right.
right-hand corner.
The big conversation right now out there, governor's race. Yeah. There's almost no conversation about the Senate race because we have a new senator, and there's been no exposure to that race. You get things on the ballot like governor's counselor. You get your state rep. Half of the state reps and state senators aren't even contested. In our city, we have 3 state rep seats, and one of them's contested. The other 2 aren't. The state senator's contested. So people are, a little confused. Let's hope people go out and vote. We had
It's
abysmal turnout in the preliminary.
It was a very low turnout.
We're hoping. I've heard rumors up to 50%. I got my opinions as whether or not we'll get that. Okay, I'm kind of in the 30-35% range. Hopefully I'm wrong. I'd like to be wrong. I'd love to see 50% of the people out there. But keep up your good work. Keep going around the county. And election night, I don't know where you're going to be at.
I'm going to be at the Full Sail in Plymouth.
Full Sail in Plymouth.
It's 47 Court Street. It's between the old courthouse and Memorial Hall on the water side, and we'll be down there tallying all the votes, waiting for it to come in. Come down, join us. Have a drink, just sit down and enjoy some company, and we'll be there until all the results are in. Get out and vote, and like I say, vote for Vecchi. Thank you.
There you go. So you're watching Meet the Candidate. Mark Linde, your host. We're a public service organization here at Brockton Community Access. We want all the voters in the county and in our state legislative district to be informed about the candidates. We'll be having more candidates on in a few days and weeks ahead that we have till the campaign. But remember, it's your right as a citizen of this country to vote and to have your voice be heard and counted. I'd like to thank my crew and staff, thank my candidate here, and we will bring you more candidates in the next few weeks. Take care.